about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with my boy Russ Gallo. Russ, how you doing, man?
The state of our show is strong.
Yes, it is. Our hand is strong. Let's just say that right now. Glad to have you back, man. We missed show the past couple of weeks. Happy New Year, by the way.
What's going on? I've been out of the loop for a while. What are we talking about
Well,
tonight?
there's a lot going on. As we know, this is our State of the Union show. And, you know what? I gotta say, I've never been more entertained by a State of the Union than I have by this one, Russ. And by entertained, I mean appalled. Absolutely appalled. Can you believe listen, we titled this show, hashtag SOTU, which typically means State of the Union. But in this case, we think the S stands for something else, Russ, right?
I honestly think this man needs help. I mean, Michael Savage often says that liberalism is a mental disorder, but Barack Obama is exhibiting signs of mental illness, the likes of which have never been seen in politics. I don't know what kind of fantasy land this man is living in, but half of his speech was devoted to how great the country is doing economically, in the energy sector, race relations. Like, I just don't understand what world this man is living in where he sees that any of that stuff could possibly be true.
I don't understand how he sees himself, really. I tweeted out earlier, does this man live in the same America that I live in?
I mean, he's touting the Iran deal. Meanwhile, several hours before the speech, 10 American sailors are being held captive by the Iranians. Not a mention of it in the State of the Union.
He said America will act alone if they have to keep our citizens secure. Except when it comes to Benghazi, places like that. Void where prohibitive, I guess. He says Joe Biden's going to cure cancer. I can't anymore.
Go get it, Joe. I mean,
Joe, get on that.
First of all, speaking of Joe Biden, look, I know you weren't watching it. You were reading along and listening along. I was actually watching this thing.
Well, some of us have to put the show together, Russ,
I mean, yeah, a little late, Gene. But so we're watching. I'm watching this thing.
The State of the Union just ended. What are you talking about? Stop that.
And in the spirit of the new movies that are coming out, though, the bar scene from Star Wars, the original Star Wars. When you look at the audience here at the State of the Union, I mean, I'm going to list off some names, because as they were popping up, I was writing these names down, and I was thinking, put these people in one room.
So I'll do the music in the background.
There you go. So John McCain, Joe Biden, Feinstein, Kerry, Ginsburg, Hoyer, Sanders, Pelosi, Franken, Schultz, and Warren. Wasserman Schultz, that was. She had the dash in her name. But how scary is that group of people? Most of them were Democrats. I had to throw John McCain in there, too, because John McCain looks like he was playing that weird organ in the Star Wars thing. Google the picture, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm at the end of the music, Russ. You got more?
There's a whole host more. But it's scary what the United States Congress is being led by, especially on the Democratic side. The hope and change and the youth of America are supposedly liberal. Look who your leaders are. Look who your nominee is going to be. It's either going to be a grandmother who may be indicted, may not be indicted before the election comes around, or Bernie Sanders. I'm assuming he's a grandfather, if not a great-grandfather by now. The man hasn't combed his hair since the late 90s.
I saw a picture of Bernie Sanders on the Twitters, Russ, during the speech, and it looked like he was wondering why all these people were on his lawn.
The Twitters. I don't even... Does this guy even understand what any of this stuff... What, does he know what's going on? It's just so scary. By the way, Gene...
Yes, sir.
Donald Trump is going to be our next president. I hope you're ready for this. I know we debate this and we talk about it. I'm going to mention it every show until you admit it.
You know what? I'm not convinced yet. I'm not convinced that he's the guy. You know, I can see Ted Cruz winning it. I can see Marco Rubio winning it. Although Marco Rubio's comments.
So you can't see the guy who's the front runner for the past 6 months.
Of course I can. I'm just not saying that he's the nominee. Of course I see him running.
There were several backhanded statements that the president made directed directly at Donald Trump.
Which shows you the clout that Donald Trump has over the American people right now and the threat that Obama sees Trump as to his legacy. And that's what this is all about. It's about his legacy. But go ahead, Russ.
Well, legacy, yes. But I was going with the Donald Trump thing is pretty much everything Donald Trump has said over these past few months has become the spotlight of what's on the news every night. And even the networks their panelists say, we don't understand why the media talks nonstop about Donald Trump. Meanwhile, they're talking nonstop about Donald Trump even on the panels. Basically, everything the man has said has come to pass. If you look at ISIS and immigration, and we've spoken about this for years, Gene, how everything's intermingled.
Absolutely.
You know, if you talk about national defense, you're talking about your border, you're talking about your economy, you're talking about immigration. Climate change. I don't know if that's anywhere on there. By the way, you're living in fantasy land again, according to the president.
The science is settled.
Yes, it's settled.
Gosh darn it! Why
so
are you even
question the great one? Don't question the great one.
How dare you?
Or be labeled the denier.
The unmitigated goal. How dare you? By the way, how many straw men did President Obama put into his speech? I mean, for goodness sake, Republican, deniers will say this. People who are demagoguing fear will say this. How many straw men did he put up to try to make him sound like the savior? By the way, hope and change totally in effect for President Obama.
Listen, we have to be happy with what we got. The guy is done. We control both houses of Congress. We got rid of John Boehner. We're doing damn good.
So the state of our union is strong.
It's getting stronger.
Except in states where the states are not strong.
I mean, can you imagine having John Boehner back there? Maybe John Boehner and President Obama could both cry over gun violence together somewhere. They're misplaced tears. Meanwhile, we got guys pledging their allegiance to ISIS and shooting police officers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But the White House refuses to call it a terrorist attack, saying that they are waiting on the local authorities in Philadelphia. They're waiting on the local authorities in Philadelphia to complete their investigation before they figure out whether it's a terrorist act or not. Aren't you glad to know that the national security of the United States is being handled by the police department of Philadelphia? Fully capable police department, but I don't care for them to be, running our national security.
Well, let's just say this, Russ. When someone says, I shot that person in the name of Islam, we need to confirm if that was really true or not, even though the person admitted to it.
No, we won't even confirm whether it was really true or not. If you listen to this administration and anyone on the left, they just blanketly make the statement that it's not true. The mayor of Philadelphia came on and said it's not true. How do you say something that the killer himself, or the attempted killer himself, said is not true?
Well, you know what?
The killer said, I did this in the name of Islam and I pledge allegiance to ISIS. And the mayor came on and said, this was not done in the name of Islam and has nothing to do with ISIS.
Evidence still to be confirmed. But since we're talking about terrorism, let's get to the portion of President Obama's speech when he talked about terrorist networks. Priority number one is protecting the American people and going after terrorist networks. Both Al-Qaeda and now ISIL pose a direct threat to our people because in today's world, even a handful of terrorists who place no value on human life, including their own, can do a lot of damage. Okay, I think we can all agree with that statement, but let's talk about how he focused on ISIS.
Wait.
This is what
Say the last piece of that again?
Sure. Because even a handful of terrorists who place no value on human life, including their own, can do a lot of damage. Yet, when we have seen recent terror attacks abroad, especially in Paris, and the president talks about his strategy towards, quote-unquote, undermining and now he's saying destroying.
It was degrading.
Degrading.
Last time
Thank
around.
you very much. His actions do not back up his words because he thinks that his strategy of engagement, which is, drone propaganda and not calling them radical Islamists, is working. It's not working. We've seen terrorists become more emboldened in the Obama administration than we had in past years.
Not only is it not working, Gene, and this is something I thought about early on in his speech when he first went off the rails, and he pretty much went off the rails right off the bat. But I want everyone listening to think about this for a minute. Bill Clinton, in the 90s, had a problem with terrorism. He had problems with a lot of things, but he had a problem with terrorism for the sake of this discussion.
Blue dresses and cigars.
So the man had attacks on the USS Cole, the African embassies, the World Trade Center, the first World Trade Center attack, and that was all done by a group called Al-Qaeda. Or I don't know what the president would call it. Al-Qaeda, I don't know what this president calls it now.
Come up with some.
So first of all, I don't understand. This president calls it ISIL still. So right off the bat, he's not serious about destroying them. All right, so let's get back to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton throughout the 90s had a problem with terrorism, and he did very little. He did almost about the same as this president is doing against ISIS. Pinpricks, strategic strikes here and there, drop a couple of bombs, fly a few sorties. What did it... Hold on, I'm going somewhere here. What did it lead to? What did it lead to in the beginning of the next president's term? He kicked the can down the road so that the next president would have to handle Al-Qaeda, and it led to what, Mr. Gene?
It led to the 9/11 attacks.
Okay, so now this president goes for 7, he's going to go for 8 years of kicking this can down the road of ISIS, so that the next president, which I am guessing is going to be Donald Trump, is going to have to handle. And I hope to God that the outcome is not the same and history does not repeat itself. But I'm just not sure about that.
Well, let's just look at the facts. And I know Obama is... He's allergic to facts. And we saw this in the speech. The rose-colored glasses speech, I typify this to be. How many airstrikes were there under the Bush administration in Iraq on a given day?
It was roughly 10,000, if I'm not mistaken. Off the top of my head, I'm guessing.
And yet, Obama is touting the fact that he has had 10,000 airstrikes total against ISIL.
What is ISIL?
Well, the number of sorties have decreased. Our presence in the region is diminished. We are seeing more attacks and more attempts attacks at home than we've seen at any time under any president. We are seeing homegrown Americans becoming radicalized. And we are seeing Americans so petrified by fear of being labeled racist that they choose not to act rather than act when they see something suspicious happening in their midst. Come on!
And if you don't believe that's true, San Bernardino. There was a neighbor who thought there was suspicious activity going on at the house where the terrorists lived. That they seen several Middle Eastern men coming and going at strange hours of the night. And they wanted to say something, but they didn't because they didn't want to be labeled racist.
And now,
Come on.
And now we're at a pivotal point in our nation. I know we say this every presidential year, but I think this year it does really apply. I didn't really say that in 2012 because you had a sitting incumbent going. 2016 is a pivotal year because now it's all up for grabs. And when you look at what Republicans have to offer versus what Democrats have to offer, and you look at the mood of our nation, I don't care what the president says, we are not safer than we were 8 years ago. We are in a greater state of domestic emergency than we are at any point during any administration prior to President Obama. We're at a state of almost international irrelevance when it comes to our inaction on terror as compared to what Europe... I can't believe we're talking about Europe leading the attack on terror when we talk about what France did in other places. We're at a state where America has to regain their command, regain our footing here. It's a very scary time on that level.
So what you're saying is the pendulum swung very far in one direction, and we need to swing pretty far back in the other direction to have any sort of sense of equilibrium. Is that what you're saying?
It needs to swing further past the Jeb Bushes and the John Kasichs, and I guess even the Chris Christies of the world, It's got to swing past the Marco Rubios of the world. It's got to swing into the conservative wing of the party to regain footing in order for us to go into this new future that President Obama's been talking about, which made me think of Tomorrowland from Disney World. There's going to be flying cars and technology up the yin-yang and all these things that we got to be prepared for. Back to the Future is going to happen, Russ. The Cubs will win.
All right, so let's now that we're there.
I went too far there. I know, Cub fans. Sorry.
So now that we're there, though, so you mentioned who it has to go past. You didn't mention who is out there in that wing of this party.
Okay, so let's do it. Trump.
So you got Trump
the leader.
out there. You got
Cruz is out there. I would say Rand Paul is out there on the conservative wing.
Oh, he's out there, all right.
I would say Rick Santorum's out there on the conservative wing, though he's not getting enough traction. I'd say Mike Huckabee is out there on the conservative wing. I think he's very strong when it comes to foreign policy. If you ever listen to him talk about it.
Well, let's not make our listeners happy, or maybe this will make them happy. We're going to scratch off all the last ones you mentioned because they don't count. So it's just Cruz and Trump are the last two left that are still out there in the conservative wing that have a chance of winning.
I am the typical and quintessential undecided voter. How dare you limit my choices?
I am throwing them off like Fox is throwing them off to the main debate stage. They're not going to make it. Some of them aren't even going to make the secondary debate stage. Let's stop talking about them.
Third debate stage now?
Let's talk about Trump and Cruz for a minute.
So this is outside the arena.
This is why. This is where I think the battle really is, and I think it's an important case study for you political junkies out there. Cruz and Trump, you can argue that they're both the most conservative in the race. I will argue that Trump's not even really that conservative, to be honest.
Cruz is the most conservative in the race, bar none.
Correct. Now, Trump is very careful to stick to the issues where he is conservative on, or right, far right on.
Immigration.
Most economic issues, I would argue that Trump is pretty far to the right on. There's not many more. I mean, military spending, he wants to make the military the greatest.
I think saying I'm going to bomb the out of them is pretty...
Well, here's
much in line with what conservatives want.
And this is where I wanted to get to. So you got a guy like Cruz who, on the issues where Trump is to the right, or actually conservative, Cruz is just as conservative. But Cruz will never say the things that Donald Trump is willing to say. I will bomb the S out of them. I'm going to build a wall and make the Mexicans pay for it. There's a whole host of things that Donald Trump has said.
Well, that's a matter of bombacity versus... bombacity, I should say. I screwed up that word. That's a matter of the pomp and circumstance that is Donald Trump, the branding of Donald Trump, the presentation of Donald Trump. You can't fault Cruz for the difference in presentation.
Correct. And in any other year, any other cycle, Cruz would be palatable. But a guy like Donald Trump is the answer to a Barack Obama. The pendulum has swung so far that we need to ram it up there, you-know-what. And Donald Trump is that guy.
One of the commenters in our chat room... and by the way, we've run a live chat during all of our live shows on Spreaker, Tuesdays at 10 p.m.-ish. One of our commenters in the chat room put it perfectly. Terry said, people like Trump's I don't give a you-know-what badassery. That is what separates him from Cruz, is what you were saying. Now, how does that play in when it comes to the ballot box? Because right now, Cruz is surging in Iowa. He's going to start making his move in New Hampshire. Trump has been the leader. Let's put it this way. Trump has done something that nobody in the 2012 cycle ever did. Hold and maintain the attention of the American people to the tune of holding a lead in the polls from when we started back in August with these debates to present. Give the man credit for that. He's held the attention, and the attention has only grown as it's gone forward. Now, let's compare that. Let's bring this full circle for a second, Russ. Let's compare that to what we heard today in the chambers of Congress. Do you think that the American people believed anything that this man was telling them about the economy being better, about the accomplishments of renewable energy under his administration? Or are they believing Donald Trump in the same way that they believed Obama back in 2008? Donald Trump may be the new Obama in this election because he's tapped into something that the American people really feel a need for. And that is the anger and frustration that Obama has created despite his rose-colored glass outlook on life.
Well, yes, right, and Donald Trump is a populist. He's wearing a conservative costume right now, which is great for us, but he's a populist.
That's the best way to put it, I think. He's very good.
When you sit with your friends in a bar or, just hanging out, they talk a lot like Donald Trump talks. He is relating to people. He is going to have crossover appeal for Democrats. What makes me laugh, Gene, is this. And I see one of our good friends in the chat room tonight. She often says, this woman I'm talking about, about growing the party and outreach and attracting minorities.
And calling them undocumented and not illegal. Yes.
Well, whatever. She said a whole host of things. But what makes me laugh is a guy like Donald Trump is actually doing that. He's actually increasing participation in the Republican Party from groups that don't normally. He's going to be competitive in states where we're not normally competitive in. Minorities are going to vote for, if Donald Trump is a nominee, they're going to vote for Republicans in numbers not seen in recent history. And yet somehow this is a bad thing. And I wish that we can get, our friend to call in, or anyone to call in who can shed some light on this and tell me why a guy like Donald Trump is a bad thing. Because these very same people would say Ted Cruz is a bad thing.
And by the way, if you want to call in, we'll open the phone lines up for you. 718-395-BEL1. That's 718-395-2351. If you want to talk to us live, we'll be glad to talk to you tonight. The night of the State of the Union, the final State of the Union, by President Obama. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be going further in depth into the speech, a couple more takes from me and Russ on what was said, and we'll juxtapose what we're seeing to what we'll see from the next President of the United States, who will be a Republican. We can pretty much guarantee you that. Gene and Russ, Behind Enemy Lines, will be back right after these brief words.
I'm Vito. And I'm Vito. And we're from WNJC's The Vito and Vito Show. Every Friday at 1 p.m., you can hear Vito and Vito bring you the perspectives of two college-age millennial conservatives who are committed to defending the principles of free markets, liberty, freedom, and individualism from Brooklyn, New York. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vito and Vito Show, and check out our blog posts and articles at VitoandVito.com. Vito and Vito Show every Friday, 1 p.m. on WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. In Brooklyn, it's nothing but the truth.
There's a movement in healthcare today. It's a movement of people that's ready to stand up and take charge of their healthcare. It's people like you and me, who are tired of paying too much for healthcare and getting too little. People who are standing up for their values and letting their conscience make decisions based on timeless principles. It's a movement that's sweeping the nation, and you need to be a part of it. Liberty HealthShare is leading the movement of people who are looking for an alternative to traditional health insurance. Liberty HealthShare is a healthcare sharing organization of people who are sharing the cost of healthcare in an easy and efficient way. Choose your own doctor, your own hospital, and live out your values in healthcare. Join the movement. Together, we're changing healthcare for good. Go to www.joinlhs.com or call 800-722-8041.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air.
Gene and Russ, back behind enemy lines. And Russ, challenge was accepted during the commercial break, because on the line with us right now. It is our pleasure to bring onto the show right now, our Behind Enemy Lines correspondent in D.C., regular contributor to the show, professional lobbyist, and our resident rhino. And our resident rhino, and our good friend, Amanda Kohut. How you doing, Amanda?
Hey, guys. How are you? I mean, Russ, the challenge accepted, but you're bringing me in here after I've had a couple of scotches for the night. It's like you were waiting for me to be at my weak point.
Did you play the Obama drinking game? Is that what you did?
I can neither confirm or deny, or since I deal with Congress, I'm just going to say I reserve my right to plead the fifth.
Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. All right, so Russ, you laid out the challenge. Lay it out again so that Amanda can answer it.
So, yeah, since you came back from a break, for those of you guys who just joined us, lots of people, rhinos mostly, say that what the Republican Party really needs to do is to moderate its views and to, attract more people to the Republican Party, the big tent, more minorities, gays, lesbians, the whole host of people. Donald Trump is attracting all kinds of people into the party. He's going to be competitive in so many more states than your typical Republican in a presidential year. And I want to get it from I'm going to call it a rhino, a resident rhino.
Our straw rhino.
Our resident rhino. What's bad about Donald Trump? I know you hate Ted Cruz, so what's bad about Donald Trump? He seems to be exactly what you're describing.
Well, since you spoke about populism, Russ, let's go there for a second. Let me talk to you quickly about my Thanksgiving. At my Thanksgiving dinner, my cousin John came. He is a construction worker. He is a member of a union and a lifelong Democrat. And John told me during Thanksgiving that he was going to be supporting Donald Trump. I was very surprised. And I asked him, what encouraged you to support a Republican? And he said, oh, no, I'm not supporting a Republican. My politics haven't changed. I just like Donald Trump because I like how he speaks. And apparently Trump uses he uses unionized construction workers on his projects. So my concern there, if the Johns of the world are the ones that are coming on board that we're trying to attract, are they coming on board because of the cult of personality of Trump, or are they coming on board because of the Republican message? There is a distinction there, because if they're coming on board for Trump, there's no loyalty there. There's no sustainability. Once Trump's off the ballot, so are those voters. But if they're coming over for the Republican message, those are the people we really want to keep and focus on. And admittedly, we're not going to be able to know what that impact is for a few years. But it's something that you really have to think about in terms of, is he effectively bringing in new voters?
But when people's eyes are on Donald Trump, their eyes are also on the Republican field, especially when you have these monthly debates going on. So you can't really gauge who is there. You know, Trump may get him in the door, but they may stay in the door because of the conservative message from either Trump or other candidates, right, Russ?
Yeah, and I don't care if it's the party or the candidate. I want asses in the seats. Think about it. The Reagan Democrats, they were union people too. And they voted in overwhelming numbers for a guy named Ronald Reagan. They did stick around for quite a while. Donald Trump can attract these people to the party. We're not going to educate people and turn them into Republicans. And if you disagree with that, with me on that, Amanda, I'd like for you to at least explain how you think we're going to educate millions of people to become actual Republicans. Whereas a guy like Donald Trump, if they agree with him on half the things, which me as a conservative Republican, I only agree with him on half of his things, but I'm willing to vote for him. That's true.
That's true bipartisanship.
Bipartisanship. That's true compromise, where he's willing to build a wall and make the Mexicans pay for it and bomb the S out of ISIS. You know what? He can be a proponent of gay marriage or whatever else he wants to be a proponent of. I'll take that and call it a day.
Go ahead, Amanda.
But again, are those butts staying in the seats, Russ, because of the show? Because the whole appeal of Trump is that people are attracted to the show. They love a showman. But the rest of the Republicans out there are not showmen. The only other bombastic one up on that stage is Chris Christie. Do we have an entire bench of Republicans in the mold of Donald Trump to keep those people there?
I see Donald Trump filling 1,000-seat arenas. If you're trying to tell me that he can't get a majority of people to come out and vote the same way that he's been filling these arenas because they want to hear him speak, I'm sorry. I think that defies political logic.
Well, no, she's talking about the longevity of the party, whether these people will stick around.
Okay, no,
my argument is this:
but
Barack Hussein Obama has been in for 7 years and has moved the earth, the heavens and earth. If we can get Donald Trump in there for 8 years, we can reverse most of this and get some stuff accomplished.
To me, political ideology is not a static thing where people need to go from one camp to the other. It morphs, it turns, like we talked about with Reagan Democrats, like you talk about with Rockefeller Republicans. I mean, it's all twisting and turning and moving around. The pendulum swinging both ways is not because people change different uniforms. The pendulum swinging both ways is because people's mindsets change. So today's centrist Democrat may be tomorrow's centrist Republican when they hit the ballot box. I think that's the point, Amanda.
It is, and I don't think that we're going to see, certainly not in the next few decades, maybe not even our lifetimes, I don't think we're going to see a permanent realignment where people subscribe to party loyalty. But we will have people who, because of at least more information, better access to information, might be more inclined to tilt one way or another. And that's really the goal, I think, rather than just increasing party enrollment. It's getting that comfort zone to say, oh, well, the Republican Party and I agree on most things. I'll just go for their candidate.
I got you. Hey, listen, thanks for calling in. We really appreciate it. Amanda Kohut, where can people find you on the Twitters and all that other fun stuff?
You can find me on the Twitters at Amanda Kohut, Kohut, or my website, www.amandakohut.com.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Glad you accepted the challenge. We knew you wouldn't shy away. Appreciate it a lot.
Never.
We'll talk to you soon. Never.
Bye,
we love
guys.
it. Bye.
What is wrong with rhinos?
You know what? There's a lot wrong with rhinos, but I think Amanda is worried about the integrity of the party. And I don't think we need to worry about that. I think we need to worry about winning.
But that's what I want to say.
And then we can worry about the integrity of the party.
This is where I'm going with this. Rhinos just don't want the Republican Party to win. No, they don't want a conservative to win it.
They don't want the Republican Party to change.
No, this isn't true. They don't want the Republican Party to win. That's it. If it was Ted Cruz in the lead, she would have a problem with it. Donald Trump, nowhere near a real conservative. You're not going to see him out there with the Tea Party people. He doesn't have no idea about farming. The guy's not a conservative in the classical sense of anti-abortion or anti-gay marriage or pro-life. He's not any of those things.
You know what?
So this should be a rhino's wet dream.
I agree with you totally. Just want to let you know, Nikki Haley's speech to the nation in response to the State of the Union is online right now. Governor Nikki Haley's Republican address to the nation. And here's a good soundbite from it. We need to be honest with each other and with ourselves. While Democrats in Washington bear much responsibility for the challenges facing America today, they do not bear it alone. There is more than enough blame to go around. I didn't hear that from President Barack Obama. I heard that he did a great job, Republicans tried to stop him, and he pushed through a lot. That tells you right there. To me, Republicans are missing the boat. Because when you're fighting someone who says, I'm totally right and you're totally wrong, by consenting that you did some things wrong, you are giving ground already. And while I appreciate the sentiment, and I know that Republicans need to own that truth as we go forward, I think we need to also be able to call out that other side and say, you know what? It wasn't all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows everywhere. You did a lot wrong. I just don't get why.
Name one thing they did wrong.
Solyndra, Benghazi, shovel-ready jobs. The list goes on and on. I mean, we talk about a whole bunch of different things.
Well, Obama claimed in the speech that our whole energy sector is different now. We don't rely on fossil fuels as much.
Well, Joe got on that, so
Joe Biden took care of it. Well,
Joe Biden's going to cure cancer. Can everybody just jump up and down and be happy about that? Can you be happy for one moment that Joe Biden, the man we all love to make fun of, he's going to go out there into the world, and within the next year, before President Obama leaves, I guess, Joe Biden's been given the keys to the cancer wagon, and he's going to find that cure if he has to look under every last rock and boulder in the nation. Joe, get on that, Joe.
By the way, all right, so my favorite comment in the chat room so far, Very Terry has asked, she asked earlier on, did he mention the sailors in Iran, referring to the 10 sailors that Iran is holding captive right now? And I answered, no, he did not. And then she wrote back, yikes, wow, maybe he doesn't know.
And that typifies the Obama administration. Well, isn't that what you always said?
He claims
I was not aware of this. I always found out from the news.
I found out from watching CNN. I know he doesn't. He claims in the State of the Union that he reads his daily intelligence briefing every day. I highly doubt that. There's been several sources at high levels that says that he rarely ever looks at the briefing in the mornings. So he doesn't really know what the hell is going on any given day. So excellent comment, Terry.
We're at halftime here on Behind Enemy Lines. I'm Gene, he's Russ, and while we got you listening, please check out www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. You can check us out on the Facebook and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any portion of this live show here on Spreaker, you can check us out on any of our internet networks and affiliates, and also on AM radio at WNJC 1360 AM, on Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, Red State Talk Radio, High Plains Daily News Radio, and Sackheads Media, K98 Talk, and then, of course, on iTunes, Player FM, Podbay, TuneIn, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio on demand anytime you want. Russ?
Yeah, that's
Haley.
Great stuff. I mean, I love all those. Usually when you start mentioning all the websites and stuff, I fall asleep for a good minute.
I stumped him is what I did. I'm reading through Nikki Haley's speech here, Russ.
I think we should skip Nikki Haley.
You want to skip Nikki Haley? Because she actually mentions the 10th Amendment.
Yeah,
she mentions the
good
Second
for
Amendment.
her. I'm tired of...
It's what you come to expect from a response to the Democratic State of the Union.
Listen, if the Republican Party doesn't get their ass out of their head soon, I don't know what's going to happen here. We keep picking guys, or mostly girls, it seems lately, to give the response, to be politically correct.
Oh, come on.
Listen, Nikki Haley is great. I love her. But come on, I had enough of this. To me, it's like white males need not apply. I had enough. I'm moving on. Let's get to another woman, Hillary Clinton.
Where was she tonight?
Where the hell was she? I'll tell you where she might want to be. She might want to be speaking to her lawyers. Because I've predicted this since over about a year now. I am telling you people, Hillary Clinton will be indicted before this election. It's damn near impossible at this point for her to survive to Election Day without being indicted. There's proof now in emails that have surfaced that she said, before you email me any classified material, please erase the classification banner off those emails. That's it.
If that's not
a
If
felony.
that's not a smoking gun, I don't know what is.
Hillary Clinton is going to be indicted. I don't know how many times I have to keep saying this. I'm getting excited because I know it's close. Preet Bharara, where are you, bro? Like, come on. You put people in jail in New York State for far less. What is happening here?
Oh, my goodness. You know, at a time when we should be talking about the State of the Union, but this is what happens with a lame duck president. We have a race on right now, and Hillary Clinton is now... Barack Obama is no longer the target. The lame duck had his last go on in the pond. We're now looking forward.
But speaking of lame ducks, when Hillary Clinton gets indicted, are they going to have to take Joe Biden out of the crypt and prop him up on stage and get him to run? What's going to happen?
But haven't they set Joe up for failure now? What if he doesn't find the cure for cancer?
But him and Bernie Sanders, is there anyone under 90 years old in the Democratic Party that can run for president?
Oh, my goodness.
Is there anyone with their own teeth willing to run for president in the Democratic Party this year?
You mean to tell me that Chelsea Clinton wouldn't be on deck?
You might as well throw Chelsea up there. But she has a war on women problem, too, because guess what? Her father is a sexual predator, a deviant, a Bill Cosby, Bill Clinton, accused rapist. Come on. Donald Trump is going to mop the floor with whoever gets up there. God, I hope it's Hillary. It looks like Bernie Sanders might be able to eke out a win in some of these early states.
Bernie Sanders is actually leading right now, I believe, in Iowa and New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, he's killing her, and in Iowa, he's within the margin of error. What is happening in the Democratic Party?
And if you notice, the questions have turned from Bernie Sanders, so what happens if you don't win Iowa and New Hampshire? Now the questions have turned to, what if you don't win South Carolina and Florida? And Bernie's got the right answer. He's like, well, 6 months ago you were asking about these two states, so I guess we're making progress, aren't we? Oh, and I would love, God, make this happen. I would love to see a Bernie Sanders debate with either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump. I would love, oh my God, that would be, you know how much fun that would be? Admiral Stockdale Redux.
But this is what people understand, like, even with Amanda and some of the rhinos who listen, Donald Trump is terrific for the Republican Party. You had mentioned this earlier. Whether he wins or not is almost irrelevant at this point. He's getting millions of people to tune into Republican debates to hear our ideas that normally would not do so. And if you better believe if he's debating a socialist, either one of the socialists that are running, either Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, if he's debating a socialist, we win. And I'm talking about the party, not just Donald Trump.
And if you notice, again, Hillary Clinton could not answer the question. What is the difference between a socialist and a Democrat? You would think after Debbie Wasserman Schultz screwed up that question that she would be ready for it. But again, last week, Hillary got asked that question, and guess what? She had no answer. She deflected. Because, like Russ said, there is no difference. At this point, what does it matter?
How could
what
a
the difference
Democrat
is?
running for president or the head of the DNC not have a canned answer ready for what is the difference between a socialist and a
Oh,
Democrat?
that's simple, Russ. They're not that bright. I mean,
Or there really is no difference. That's the real scary part. They know
might
there's
be,
no difference.
Hey, you know what? I might be denial on that because I firmly believe that there are some Democrats out there who are definitely not socialists.
But those are your Reagan Democrats or Trump Democrats, and they don't even know that they're not Democrats
And you
anymore.
stole the answer right out of my
Sorry.
mouth because those are the people that are going to turn this election for whoever the Republican is. You know what, Russ? I think it might be time for our last break before the end of the show.
Please tell me it's who I think it is.
We're going to do a little Reverend Al.
I need it. I need it. I need it. Another Democrat that ran for president once. Disaster.
Yes. We give equal time here. We let rhinos on the show, and we let Reverend Al speak. Here's some vintage Reverend Al for everybody out there as you are taking your break from the State of the Union and from Election 2016 nonsense. Gene and Russ behind enemy lines will be back after Reverend Al.
The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
Good evening, Rev. Thanks
Good evening,
to
Rev.
you, Ed. Is this Groundhog Day 2? We are watching that was Attorney General Eric Holder, ABDs, about some Republicans at home are already beating the drums of war. Today, the Pentagon refuted that claim. And he said the American people do not want him to, quote, dwindling, they do not want him dwindling his thumbs. You can get a gig as a contortionist. Intravenous fluids and pills coated with gelatin. We don't leave our women or men in uniform behind. It's a monument to the hubris of Dick Cheney, Representative Raul Labrador. Years of abuse. I personally apologize to Mr. Peebles. Just ask to soon-to-be former Congressman. Democrats are outright jitty. CIA's counterterrorism center. Veteran Affairs Secretary Shinseki. Why do I always mess up his name? Shinseki. I love my critics. I have fun with that.
Politics Nation with the Reverend Al Sharpton starts right now. Good evening, Rev.
Good evening, Dr. Dyson.
But wait, there's more.
And we will much about that be committed. So there's no real conflict. Michael Druniak, including Lincoln himself, Daniel Day-Lewis. Behind Monica Lewinsky, the one and only Trey Songz is here. But Allison Lundergan Grimes, Gina De Jesus. When Gina De Jesus, Tea Party challenger Matt Bivens. People don't want to have their Social Security overall. The Republican savior, Mark Rubio's big night. In evolution and Galileo, this whole thing of Galileo, America's changed. Unless IT and Skillets, President Putin doing something similar back in, it won't change this fundamental fact about the GOP. Just how absurd these attacks is. Nearly 6 months after the dangerous traffic jam, the Thai military says, my friend for many years, Ilyana Van Zandt. There's nothing there.
And and they gave this guy a TV show? Let's get back to our show.
Gene and Russ, back behind enemy lines. Always good to hear from Reverend Al. He's now buffoon emeritus here at Behind Enemy Lines. The reigning buffoon of the year, by the way, Russ. I don't know if you saw the results. Governor Rawlings Blake.
I don't know if you remember, I was boycotting, but yes, I'm back now, I guess.
Yes, I know you were boycotting.
So Reverend Al won.
No, Reverend Al did not win. It's just that he's forever a winner.
So who won?
We said, it was Stephanie Rawlings Blake, from the mayor of Baltimore.
Oh, all right. Well, I could live with that.
Okay, I'm glad you can live with that, pal. A few minutes before the show ends here, Russ, we got a couple minutes left. We got time to talk about the other parts of the State of the Union. I mean, the president had 4 questions for us. How did I get here? Who am I? No, those weren't them. That was Admiral Stockdale, wasn't it? Talking about the economy, talking about, I guess, technology, talking about security, and then talking about the political climate and culture of America. And this is where he started taking his shots at Trump, where he started taking his shots at Cruz, talking about that you can't change America by changing the candidate, by just re-electing somebody. I'm sorry, yes you can. I think if we all cared more about politics, if we all cared more from the local level on up, don't just show up for the presidential election, show up for all the elections. I think the president is wrong here. Duh. Shocker, right? President's wrong because you change political culture by changing the leadership. You change the leadership by showing up to vote. And this is what Trump, I think, has in his back pocket. The idea of the silent majority, that nobody seems to know how to get out to vote. Republicans haven't figured it out. Democrats haven't figured it out. The fringes come out no matter what. Conservative voters will come out. People on the Twitters will come out. But how do you get people to defeat the couch? And this, I think, Obama is wrong about. If people show up and they vote, they're coming out because Trump told them to. And I think you'll see fundamental change when you get someone who can be potentially transformative, like Donald Trump, in office. I think Ted Cruz wants to be transformative. And I think that we as a nation should look for those type of people to be transformative in what's going on in the political culture of America. Forget about, we always like to wonk out and talk about the bills. But we need somebody out there to say, we will go to the moon. We need someone like that's what Trump did when he said, I'm building a wall and Mexico's paying for it. Everybody else will figure out how to get there from there. But Obama discounted the will of the people in his speech, and that really upset me. I don't know how you felt about that. Maybe towards the end that everybody was getting a little bit of fatigue. But that was the point that got to me the most. That he was dismissive of elections and the will of the people.
Well, look, Terry, another good comment in the chat room, so Obama was actually trying to whip the Democrats into more political action. And I agree with that comment. I think Obama, listen, he's delusional, psychotic, neurotic, a whole bunch of oddics. But he's not dumb. He sees the writing on the wall here. He understands that a guy like Trump is going to unify a huge chunk of the electorate. We've had landslide victories in the House and Senate, and now we're going to, I predict, have a landslide victory for the White House. Landslide. I mean, states where we've never been competitive or haven't been competitive for many years, we will be competitive, especially if Donald Trump is our nominee. What I believe Barack Obama knows, and that most people don't seem to acknowledge in the political world, is that people identify as Republican and Democrat. A good number of people identify themselves as independent. Now, where the rhinos and the analysts and the wonks and the lobbyists, they believe that this independent group is just that, independent. But that couldn't be further from the truth. An independent truly is someone who either is a Democrat or a Republican but refuses to acknowledge either party. The issue, though, is people who were formerly Republicans and then all of a sudden identify themselves as independents will never vote for a Democrat. They won't. They'll never do it. They'll either sit it out or vote for a conservative Republican. That's it. Those are the only two options for an independent that leans Republican. Then you have your independents that lean Democrat. But those people will vote for a Republican because those people don't want to identify as Democrat. Why? Because the Democratic Party today is socialist, and they don't want to be a socialist But they remember the John F. Kennedys, and they remember all the good things about the Democratic Party of yesteryear. So they don't want to leave the party, so they become independent, but they'll never for a socialist. But they will vote for Republicans, and that's why we have landslide victories every now and again. And Donald Trump is one of those people. One more note on this, which I thought was shocking. Fox News showed some polls that they took. And one poll showed 23% of the American people polled think that they are safer now over the last 7 years with Obama's policies towards ISIS. 23%. Now, I would like to propose that 23% is your hardcore leftist base. You're insane.
What we call the dead dog vote, right?
The dead dog Democratic vote. Because there's no way any rational person could say that Obama did a good job with ISIS.
Because you can put a dead dog in a Democratic uniform and they'll still vote for him.
And that's that 23% hardcore. Everyone else, I argue, because I would argue that the right has about the same. 25 to 30% of the population, diehard Republican, they're going to vote Republican no matter what. And then you have this mass of people in the middle, or the supposed independents. But in a poll like this, you see that even those people are not fooled by a guy like Barack Hussein Obama or the Democratic Party. They see the economy is not good, despite what this president says. They see that national security is a disaster. They see that allowing Syrian refugees into a country is a disaster. Ask Germany and the women who were fondled, raped, and abused there. And when Donald Trump said rapists, drug dealers, terrorists, and killers are coming across the border, he wasn't making a mistake. He wasn't being melodramatic. He actually wasn't being tough enough, in my opinion. This was before the Syrian refugee crisis he said these things. And it's even more true now.
You know what? I think you hit on so many points, I can't even pick one out. But Amanda Kohut had a question for you in the chat room. I want you to address it in there as well, because the battle continues between you guys. But let's give the president this. Everyone should be optimistic in 2016. Republicans should be optimistic because, well, this is his last year. And that we are looking towards a future where we will most likely be electing a Republican president to go along with a Republican Senate and a Republican House. That's something to be optimistic about, because I think that's the road that President Obama has put us on. Tonight, he just gave everybody who is paying attention a new reminder that America's best days are in front of them because he is slowly turning behind us. President Obama's accomplishments, quote-unquote, are nothing more than stealing liberty, half-truths, and rose-colored glasses. He touts 19 million people getting insurance via Obamacare, but we all forget that they were mandated to get that coverage or face a penalty from the IRS. He talks about renewable energy, yet expects us all to forget about Solyndra and all the other scandals in renewable energy because all the money wasted there because he wanted to push an agenda. We're supposed to talk about a renewal of American jobs and our economy rebirth, but we're supposed to forget about that shovel-ready jobs weren't shovel-ready, that millions of people have left the employment sector and aren't even being counted as unemployment, and that we have more people on food stamps and public assistance in this nation than we have at any other time in our history. Oh, and by the way, the world isn't safe anymore because we've allowed it to become more unsafe than it's ever been at any point in my lifetime. So thank you again, President Obama, for your State of the Union address. You just gave everyone a beautiful reminder of why our best days are in front of us, and you, hopefully very soon, will be behind us. Rush, you got anything to add for a final thought here before we get up on out of here?
Where to even go? But let me give it a shot.
Hey, listen, we got so much time for final thought. You can take as much time as you want.
I just hope everyone feels safer after these last 7 years, and we got one more to go.
Safer with more money in our pocket and economic security. Oh wait, no, $2,000 less per year in our pocket. People feeling less safe in their homes and in their cities. And
we have a booming economy with the largest amount of people out of the workforce in decades. Somehow that's a booming economy. We have gays and transgenders openly serving in the United States military. We have women in the front lines in combat roles. while meeting different physical standards than their male counterparts. We have Syrian refugees coming to the United States with an open border on our south. Drug dealers, rapists, terrorists, killers, and all kinds of miscreants coming across. We have no idea who they are. We have deals with Iran. Tomorrow, $150 billion worth of sanctions is lifted. Meanwhile, they hold 10 American sailors hostage. They've captured the boats that they were on. They're, as we speak, dismantling them, I'm sure. Dissecting the technology that's in their radio systems and communication devices and whatever weapon systems may have been on board. I hope everyone sleeps better and truly feels safer after 8 years, 7 so far, 7 down, 1 to go, of this madman in the White House. Madman.
You know, just to round it all off, let's leave on an optimistic note.
And you're worried about a guy like Donald Trump. I'm sorry, Gene. Anyone who's worried about a guy like Donald Trump, you got some nerve. You got some nerve saying that this guy, Donald Trump, is irrational. Look at the guy we just had for 7 years. He passed bills without Congress. Without Congress. There's a Constitution. Constitution be damned with this guy. And you're worried about a guy like Donald Trump. This guy still says he's going to close Guantanamo Bay. He's releasing 10 prisoners. Does anybody see this in the news today? 10 more are going to go. 10 more. Where are they going? Nobody knows. What country's going to take these 10 people? Nobody knows. Where are the rest of them going to go? Nobody knows. The 5 that we released for Bergdahl. Remember that traitor Bergdahl we released 5 Taliban prisoners from Guantanamo Bay? A person that they said served with distinction is now on trial. On trial for desertion. This president is damn near a traitor. Damn near. I hope you all feel safer. And anyone who says Donald Trump is irrational and can't be president and doesn't have the proper temperament, go F yourself. And that's a New York thing. I support Donald Trump, my New York brother.
Well, I was going to end on a high note, but you know what? I think we can end on that note. Russ Gallo, he vents the frustrations of Americans nationwide whenever he goes off on those rants. No more need be said from me, pal. You said it all, and thank God you're back this week. I think it's time to shut it down, though. What do you think?
I need a drink, Gene. Shut this mofo down.
All right, folks. We'll be back next week with some more show. We got some big announcements coming about us going to First in the Nation up in New Hampshire, going to CPAC again. Whole lot of shaking going on here behind enemy lines. We're glad you're going to be here with us. But for now, we are out of here.
Our position's been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. Part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. A rock radio production. Copyright 2015. Back in 7 days. Out.